just going to go off grid in the showgrounds at the back there, but we've
Nice.
gone 40 degrees on Thursday. I want power. I want fans and air conditioning.
I thought I'd let you finish that story, even though we are live now. So
We're live. Good.
We are live. All right, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of the Road to Positive Aging Summit 2026. This is a 6-part series streaming once a month as we gear up for the 2026 event in Adelaide, held on the 20th and 21st May at the Hilton. If you missed this year's event, then you missed what was the underdog event of the year. Today's episode will cover the importance of positive aging, the 2025... No, we won't be covering the 2025 summit highlights, but I'm just reading off the script on the previous intro. We can cover some of it. Some people will be jumping on saying what they loved about it and what they are hoping for in 2026. So Mark Ryu and Dr. Tim Henwood are my co-hosts for this series. And our special guest for this episode is the General Manager, Growth and Innovation, Advisory Care and Partnerships at HammondCare. She is a practical disruptor dedicated to equity, inclusion, and dementia support. With decades of experience, she practices relationship-centered leadership that amplifies ignored voices. She challenges the status quo to shift systems rather than ticking boxes and ensures aged care works for the people who need it most. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Marie Alford.
Who wrote that intro? Goodness me.
It wasn't
way too long.
I promise I did it myself. I did try to shorten it, but, just trying to do you justice.
Oh, thank you.
So, Marie, when we think of positive aging, reablement, typically there's a strong allied health theme to it. So allied health professionals in aged care are drawn to this event. What's dementia got to do with it? And if you want to do that little jingle,
the
ahead.
Tina Turner, what's dementia got to do with it?
Yeah.
Gosh, so much. I'm not getting paid for my singing talents, obviously. It's a really good question, and big shout out to Allied Health, because dementia and allied health actually go hand in hand. And I know the Royal Commission had a huge focus on nursing, and nursing is vitally important to supporting people living with dementia, supporting all of us. But allied health is probably the underdog here. So we can definitely talk about positive aging and dementia and allied health together. But I think for people living with dementia, positive aging and complexity can sometimes almost be seen as hard to achieve and almost like setting up to fail, because we look at dementia through the lens of illness, and we look at it through a very ageist lens as well. So, we really need to be hearing the voices of those with living experience and those who are supporting people with dementia, including allied health, in how we look at dementia and positive aging together.
Hey, and Tim, you in your history of training older Australians in the gym, did you train people with dementia as well?
Very much. Let me tell you a great story. So one of the first, my sort of steps into the dementia space, I did a research study with a colleague, Christine Neville, many, many years ago, called the Water Memories Swim Club for people with dementia. And so it was an aqua aerobics program for people living in residential aged care with a diagnosis of dementia. So, comedy aside, it was like organized chaos in the pool. It was a whole lot of people splashing around, not following the instructor at all. But the outcome of it, the social engagement, the laughter, the joy, the engagement with younger people seeing past dementia and actually seeing the person, like Marie just said. And then, and everybody got better. They slept better at night. They had better appetites. They had less behavioral fluctuations. So that was my, and I fell in love with it then. Like, some of the people that we met were just absolutely fantastic. And the exercise, led to all these weird conversations, like, all these vibrant memories that I'd never heard from people before. Like, I remember going down to the swimming hole and someone had his blue shorts on, and when he did that big bombie into the water, and all these vibrant memories flooding out of people associated to being in the pool for this exercise program. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it's such a good point, Tim, because sometimes positive aging can be, let's take a little bit of a step to the side and see it can be sometimes exclusionary to some people because they might feel like they're failing. And if you're living with dementia, that could be something that, is a real challenge. And I think we need to think about contribution in positive aging as more than just your contribution in employment, although it's great to have people with dementia much more engaged in workforce, and shout out to Bill Yates, who works in our team, who's living with dementia, and all the great advocates out there. But, contribution in positive aging for people with dementia is storytelling, is around sharing wisdom, is around just that presence. And we see that in intergenerational programs where you have people with dementia and young children where there's no boundaries, where there's no expectation, where there's no issue of failure, just connecting and the person with dementia sharing their knowledge and wisdom, and the children just being there like sponges to absorb that. Positive aging is more than just living well, because I think that definition is very individually experienced. I think living well for me at 54 is very different to what it was at 34. But, I am aging too. And I am, actively aging. I'm not going to deny that. Someone with dementia is still actively aging. But what is their opportunity to contribute to that process?
Yeah. Hey, Mark, do you want to give a quick background on how the Positive Aging Summit came up? For those who missed the first episode, they want to know, what is the Positive Aging Summit? And also, when you thought of putting this event together, was dementia on the cards? And in 2025, obviously, HammondCare was representing, but is there more representation on the dementia side coming into 2026?
Very good question. So, so Positive Aging Summit does have a pretty long history behind it, surprisingly. So, about 10 years ago, we launched an event called Active Aging. Back then, Tim was involved in the 2015 version of it, I believe, and then I was involved in the 2017 version. And then, so it was more on the reablement side when it was Active Aging. So it was all about exercise and so forth. And then, obviously due to COVID and so forth, we ended up not doing it for a while. And Ture, who's going to jump on and join us later on, was one of the advocates as to we should bring that program back. And we talked about it for years, and then and we're like, okay, it sounds good, but obviously in the countless amount of events that's in the industry, there's nothing really focused on allied health, like per se. So we just talked about it for a while, and Tim and I had a chat probably a couple of years ago, which I believe I mentioned in the last one, and we said, you know what, let's do it. And then, just kept on snowballing after that. And Marie, the funny thing is, this exact date last year was our first meeting about positive aging. So it's been 12 months exactly. And in terms of dementia, so when Tim and I started talking about, what to cover, and, it was about allied health and reablement and part of positive aging, as Marie said, there's so many different components involved with it. And mental health and dementia and all of that was, just from the beginning, something that we did want to cover. And HammondCare obviously was right up there in terms of we wanted to approach and to partner with. And, thanks to Marie, it was a very quick conversation, and Marie jumped on board, I think, like 3 days after that, after the first meeting. And in terms of what will be covered next year, like I don't want Marie to, give away too much yet, but it's still up for discussion. But there will be a lot more conversations around dementia in the next year's event.
That was your Christmas present last year, Mark, was us signing up to
Marie. It really was
to the conference. Yep, we were so excited. It's such an important part, and I think and Tim, you touched on this when you talked about the swim class. Positive aging isn't just individually experienced, but it's relationally experienced. And I think that ability to be together is so important. And for people with dementia, we know social isolation is a huge factor in the progression and the impact of dementia. And so engagement through positive aging is just such a fantastic opportunity. And again, it's a sense of belonging for people, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
What were your takeaways? Oh no, go ahead, Tim.
I was going to extend, like, Marie and I have had extensive conversations about, like, I ran community respite with Southern Cross Care down here, and I'd been working with an organisation up in Queensland. I won't name them because I'm about to bag them. And and the day respite was like people would roll in on their wheelchairs and they'd go to the table and they'd sit there all day long. They get a ham sandwich for morning tea, they get a lunch, got a cup of coffee in the afternoon, a biscuit, and then they go home. And it was just, there was no engagement. There was no laughter. There was no joy. There was no activity, And so when I ran community respite for Southern Cross Care, I just went, I can't have that. And I embedded all this evidence-based practice. So not only did we have little gyms, and there was no questions asked, everybody did a half an hour of exercise, even if they didn't want to or not. But we also had all this other engagement that we made happen during the day. And most of it was just normal daily activity stuff. Like it was get out in the garden and water the garden, pull out the weeds in the garden, get chicken eggs or make sure they're fed, or help get lunch together, or help clean up after lunch. And, all these people engaged. And around that, like, this generated conversation. It gave them purpose. It gave them all this meaning for their day. And then we had all these, vibrant people who loved, singing and laughing and joking. And so people went home, and like I said about the swim memories, the Water Memory Swim Club, like people went home exhausted. So they had better sleep hygiene, which meant they had less behavioural fluctuations, which meant that they engaged with their loved ones on a better level than if they had, sundowners or something like that. Yeah, it was just, and one of the most impressive things is they get up in the morning. They weren't sure what they were excited about, but they get up and they go off to respite again, because this feeling that they had from the day before had actually transferred through to the next day for them. And I think, it's something I'm learning a lot more about, particularly having a mother-in-law go through this at the moment. Like, if she has a great day the day before, because she's active, she's engaged, she's laughing and she's joking, she might wake up the next morning and she might remember like what happened yesterday, but she feels better because of all that level of engagement. And this is where I think that really reablement can be a massive, have a massively positive impact in dementia. It doesn't need to be allied health, to your point before, Anthony. It doesn't need to be allied health. It just needs to be active engagement, somebody feeling meaningful, like you said, Marie, so having meaningful and purposeful engagement during their day. And people will be happier. Mm-hmm.
I thought you said gin, but you said gyms. So I think gyms is a really good,
we
one-track
mind. They can drink gin. Drink gin if they wanted as well.
And see, that's it.
Like
that's
adults, like adults.
Active engagement. Yeah. But I think, that activity piece for day respite. And, we see less and less good day respite opportunities for people, day centres, those sorts of things. I think we need to still think about how we name these places, because I don't know that I'd want to go to a day centre. So, social clubs is something we talk about at HammondCare. But, that forced nap in the afternoon that I see a lot of these respite centres do, because it's easy for the workers there. But then, as you say, the unintended consequences are that the person who was seeking respite, so the carer, gets someone home who's actually ready to rock and roll. And that's not the goal. Like, the goal is that they're actively engaged while they're there. And, that passive activity through the gym and through the physical activity, even if they don't want to do it, seeing other people do it. And what we know from an aging perspective is movement is so vital to so many parts of who we are, our heart and our head. And so when you're living with dementia, you need to be more active, both physically and cognitively. And so we need to be building that into those systems and structures.
Yeah, I could not agree more. Yeah.
So, Marie, what was your main takeaways? Sorry, Mark. I'll just get Marie to go through her main takeaways on 2025, and why did you decide to get involved again for 2026?
Look, I think having so many passionate people in the room aligned to making a difference in this space. I think putting the positive in front of the aging was a great, starting point for the conference, because it really pushed us in that direction. It was a lot around the movement and the activity that people were engaging in. So the simple reminders of how we can make big changes in our aging processes by, our strength training and strength over cardio training. That's what I heard. That's what I'm telling my personal trainer. More strength training, less cardio. Woo. Little small goals and how much of a difference they can make. And there was a lot of talk about dismantling ageism there as well. And I thought that was, a really important message that, I always say to people, it's funny, when you're in your 20s and your 30s, I don't know that you think about ageism. The older you get, the more it starts to come to life. And I think we need to be talking about that more, so that people in their 20s and their 30s are the active agents against ageism, so that we can start to see community and environments and programs really leaning into how we make a difference as we age, because we are all actively aging right now. And some people will be living with dementia, and they could be living with dementia in their 30s and 40s or 50s or their 70s, 80s and 90s. They're still aging, and we still want to make sure that that experience gives them as much as it can without taking away and making them feel disengaged from community and the system and the sector. Yep. That was a long-winded answer. Sorry. Haven't had enough coffee this morning.
Mark, you had a comment?
No, it was more about for Marie and the launch of Hammond Innovations. If you wanted to share the vision behind it, what's planned for the sector moving forward, because it just launched a couple of months ago. So I thought I might give a bit of a platform for Marie to share that.
Yeah, look, Hammond Innovation is really exciting. It brings together 3 existing portfolios from HammondCare. So it brings together the Palliative Centre, which has been supporting some research in this area and program development, brings together the Centre for Positive Aging, led by Professor Chris Poulos, which has had some great reablement programs, including our Arts on Prescription program. And it brings the Dementia Centre into Hammond Innovations as well. And the DC has been around for 30 plus years, delivering transformational work in the design and supporting never know how to talk about it, because if Gwenda's listening and she hears me use the word behaviour changes, but it supports when things change for people with dementia. So there we go, we'll use that. And engagement opportunities as well. So it brings together all of those portfolios into one space. And what that does is harness all that knowledge and expertise and looks at the research that we've been doing over 30, 50 years, as well as research from other sectors outside of the aged care space, and says, how can we firstly do better? Because we know the problems that exist across the sector. We know the challenges that exist. So how can we do better? What existing solutions are already out there? Because one of the things we do really badly in this sector is we do great things, but we do them in isolation and we don't share enough. And then everybody reinvents the wheel and the wheel kind of gets a bit stuck. And so change happens on small scale, but we want change to happen much more broadly. And then thirdly, how we lean into other industries to look at the technologies that they're using. And I know ARIA has been really engaged in this work, looking at technologies across other sectors and saying, how can they actually answer the questions in aged care as well? So, of course, we're working and looking to work with ARIA and other partners across the sector because there's strength in numbers. None of us can do this alone. The problem is bigger than any one organisation, and the solutions are much better when we work together.
I think it's like, it's such a great time. We obviously know that dementia is becoming this big problem. We know that people aren't going to be able to get into residential aged care. We've got all these people stuck in hospital. So a lot of communities are going to become this next sort of stopping ground for people as their complex needs increase. And dementia is a typical example. Getting the combination of the reablement, the targeted activity and exercise and social engagement, and the technology piece right, we will be able to keep people more successfully in community. And the technology piece is so amazing. Like, I remember going into the old laser conference years ago, and the first thing you saw was, continence pads and stuff like that. But now you go in and it's all technology and operational systems, and right down to, we had those guys at the Positive Aging Summit last year who had the Bluetooth dials for your stove. So like your loved ones and your caregivers can be, at home, but they see that mum's left the stove on, then it gives you an alert and you can actually turn the stove off. So, all this sort of stuff, allowing somebody with dementia to remain in their home for longer, because we know what happens when we put them into residential aged care, which just, in all bluntness, it's almost a death sentence for a lot of people. So yeah, all this stuff around these days, helping people stay at home longer, I find it fascinating.
And we've known this for a long time. And it's interesting you talk about continence, because Dr. Meredith Gresham, who used to work with the Dementia Centre, now works for UNSW. She, many years ago, did this huge project on bidets. And, bidets, a bit of a technology solution, not very well known here in Australia, quite well known in European countries. But the impact that makes on the well-being and the continence of people, older people and people with dementia, is huge. But I'm not sure when she did that research that as a sector we were ready to have those conversations about smart toilets, which is essentially what they are. But I think now we're in a different place, and we're more willing to look at things that 10, 15 years ago we went, oh, that's naff, but we have continence pads. Well, continence pads don't resolve continence issues. They actually cause more incontinence. And we all know what happens, with a higher rate of UTIs, which increases our risk of delirium, which impacts the experience of dementia. So, it is great to see technology. I'm always a little cautious that we don't leap into the shiny penny as a solution. I think, there's a lot of things out there, and I know we've invested in things over the years and gone, oh, that kind of looked like it was going to be great, but the sector or we or the users of the devices weren't ready. So we want to work with people to ensure right technology, right problem, right place. And that's where the living experience is so important, because people with dementia will tell us if it's working or it's not working. And again, it's going to be different for every person individually, but it can be such a great way to support positive aging, the use of technology, because you're right, keeping people at home is so important. But, channeling my inner Gwenda Darling again, let me do it for a moment. She would want me to say, we want to help people not be afraid of residential aged care as well, because some people will need to go into residential aged care. And so we also want to think not only about staying at home, but how we can make sure that aged care is as ready when people need that care, using technology there, but also approaches that support them to live well while they're in aged care. And I'm going to steal that hashtag. Hashtag bring back the bidet. Such a simple idea. Such a simple idea.
Just as a side note, I've got one. And
I love that for you.
It's great. It's got heated seats. It's lovely.
It's the biggest thing I miss about going after I come back from Japan. All the different, although I don't know what buttons because it's in Japanese, but I have fun pressing them all and different experiences.
Oh, you'll find out immediately.
It's an extension of all this. Like, I heard a podcast about all these futuristic ideas which are happening in the States at the moment. And there's some guy that's come up with something that you actually put in your toilet. And it looks at your biodome. Am I getting that right?
Oh.
So, obviously there's all this, like, we don't talk about it, but what happens in your gut's really important to everything, including your brain health. And so this thing sits in your toilet and gives you feedback. Like, you got your Whoop data, see how well you slept, and now you've got your toilet data to see how well you're eating or how well you're not eating. Like,
how fabulous is that? And if you've ever tried to get a urine sample out of someone who's living with a complex dementia in aged care, like trying to get a urine sample when you do need one. It's really important that we only test when we need to. But, the smart toilets enable you to do those things much more effectively. But you're absolutely right. Your gut health is as important as looking after your heart or your head. Got to get that right. Gut, heart, head. So those three things are very much connected. And so if there's something that can help us that we don't have to think about, because that's the thing. I get regular blood tests every 3 to 6 months. And, that's a lot of fun. But if I could just sit and poop and get the answers, that's got to be a good day for everybody.
If you've got a heated toilet seat, like at Mark's place.
I'm liking this.
During winter times, it's the best.
Before we get too far away from it, Marie, I think you said something really important before. Like, dementia often, as much as we know that dementia is an umbrella term, like we see a lot of one size fits all. And even in the allied health space, in the respite space, in the social engagement, one size fits all, not accounting for the individual needs. But the more I've learned about it over the years, the more I've learned that you need to treat it very much like you treat an exercise program. You target the individual's needs. And when you target the individual's needs and you work with the individual, you get the best outcomes from it. And I think that's one thing that's not really well understood by any industry. Like we know that, carers do their caring, exercise, physiologists, physiotherapists. So like my wife always says, my wife's a dementia doula, she always says, see the person. See the person. I think a lot of us just don't see the person well.
Yeah, and that's, I'm going to take this off because not only is it a little itchy, it's a little menopausal, flushy. I think, see the person. And I think, as we age, and people talk about this, and there was a great conversation, I think, from a couple of lived experience people at last year's conference around invisibility as we age. And then you add dementia on top of that, and it is about that contribution to society. So the older we get, and when we develop dementia, we're not seen as being able to engage in paid employment or even volunteering sometimes, where we're removed from the things. And unintentionally, carers, and I put myself in this group as well back many years ago when I cared for my grandmother with dementia. Unintentionally, we take away their agency and their ability to do things because we can be fearful, or we want to be helpful, or the old adage, it's just quicker if I do it myself for you rather than let you fail. And so all of that takes away who we are as a person. And I think, that is a vital piece of positive aging, seeing the person and actually giving them permission to fail, because, you and I, we all make decisions every day, good and bad. We make the decision to have that piece of cake. I had a pain au chocolat this morning with my coffee. Was that the wisest decision? No. Will I pay for it at the gym later on? Yes. But I made that decision knowing the consequence of that. But, we take away those decisions because we don't see the person as entitled to make decisions, or we don't respect their wisdom and their, some cultures, I love watching how they revere older people. And look, our First Nations communities do this beautifully, the drawing down of stories, the storytelling, the elders and the respect. But I think we probably have a little way to go in mainstream Australia in terms of that respect for older people, but for people with disabilities and dementia. If you have cancer, nothing really changes. We load more care in, but we don't take away people's agency, but we do when someone's living with dementia, and we need to challenge that. My favorite, so Tam's is seeing the person, mine's knowing the person. I think the two things go hand in hand, because you need both of those to actually ensure that we're enabling the best life for somebody.
We've got Tura backstage. Hey, Tura, if you can hear us, turn your camera on. And while you figure that out, I'm going to ask Mark. Mark, so we've got obviously allied health being one of the mainstreams or topics within positive aging and reablement. We're talking about dementia now. I know Julie Hogarth Williams, giving her a plug, talking about social isolation. What are the other streams or topics? And I guess Tim and Marie, you can weigh in on this, but looking at 2026, who else you got coming?
I might have to hand it over to Tim, because he is the brains behind this, and in
Brains
terms
behind
of
the program.
behind the program.
I just do all the talking, Mark. I just do all the talking. If it wasn't for you doing all the listening, we wouldn't get there. The program's actually up. So on the website now, so people can go and see some of the topics and some of the speakers. I think, so Maria Fierteroni Singh is our opening keynote, like the heavyweight in resistance training, reablement exercise for older adult within Australia at this point in time and internationally. And we're really excited. Like, we've got, as much as you're saying allied health, Anthony, we really haven't dug into allied health like we did last year, because we didn't want people to come back and see the same stuff. So we've got talks about social prescription, we've got talks about meaningfulness, and we've got talks about behavioural change, and all being done by nationally recognised speakers. And then we've got a whole reform government section. We're now our next road to, we're talking to Anita Hobson-Powell, who's the National Allied Health, what's her title? The head of
Chief Allied Health Officer. Yeah.
Chief Allied Health Officer. Yep. So we're going to get her to give us an update on where allied health's come to over the previous year in Australia. And we know there's a bigger movement towards understanding it, utilising it, all those sorts of things. But then we're really excited because afterwards we've got a whole panel session dedicated to the Commission. So the Quality and Safety Commission are going to come and sit on stage, and we're going to probe them about what they want to see in the reablement space and what they're hoping to see will change now that reablement and wellness sits so upfront within the Support at Home program and so heavily embedded within the strengthened quality standards. And
love a good probing of the Commission, Tim. Love a good probing of the Commission. Like,
I know.
I love that, but I love that they're so engaged and they want to be there and answer the sticky questions as well. They're, they want to hear, I think, as much from the delegates there, like the hard questions, as well as share that information, because there are challenges, and I don't think our systems and structures are quite set up to where they need to be in this space, and I think we need to keep pushing in there. But I think, as you said, it's not all about allied health. And I was speaking to a practitioner the other day who's like, well, I'm not a nurse and I don't have an allied health background. I'm just. And I'm like, don't ever say I'm just.
Yeah,
because,
don't just yourself.
Your contribution to supporting people with dementia and really knowing and seeing the person is transformational. And it is so much more than just a discipline, isn't it? It is that individual engagement that our workforce has with people.
Yeah.
We've got Tura backstage. I'm going to bring her on now. There we go.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi, Tura.
Hey,
Thanks for joining us.
Tura got the message. Tura got the message.
Memo.
She's on brand.
I got the message, and there's no way I'm going to skip a Santa hat. No way.
Do you want to give a quick intro on yourself, Tura, and then give your thoughts on the discussion so far?
Oh, look, I've had so many notes from the discussion, so I'll start with the easy bit. I can take over for the rest of the show with my notes. But so I'm Tura. Yes, Mark did mention me before. Yes, we did talk about this for a very, very long time. And last year I was thrilled to have the Positive Aging Summit, and now the second time, even better than last time. I don't know if it can be any better because it was brilliant last year. So my background, I am a physio. I am an exercise physiologist, and I did my PhD on also exercise science on the area that we talk about, so older adults, even though I looked at the gait function. And really have been there. So I was an academic before and then jumped to the other side. So I joined her, so HUR 10 years ago, a bit more than 10 years ago. And I'm in a nice position to meet people who really engaged allied health and really want to invest in the allied health of older adults. So really going from 50 plus to palliative care dementia. So really covering the whole area, and I've taken multiple, where do I start? I've taken heaps of notes throughout your conversation. And I don't know, I forgot to add, yes, I've met everyone who's also in the panel here. So over the years, so I think Tim I've known the longest for more than 20 years. So really going back and fully on the mission with you guys, and I've been listening to you guys and taking notes, and I really like the, what Tim mentioned about what Tam had said in dementia doula, see the person, but I think it's also like see the person but know their story. I think to me that is a big thing, and often when you talk to people who are, as their loved ones have dementia, they're so afraid that one day they're not going to remember who they are. And look, I'm in this situation myself, and in reality, it doesn't matter, who, if they remember you, you know who they are. And we're there for those people. And even if they don't actively can notify that I know your name, I know who you are, I know you're my daughter, and so on, but they know that you're someone who makes them comfortable. Like, okay, I can refer to my mum. I know who she is. And I was in the same boat with the nurses when she was still at home, and I know who she is. I don't care if she doesn't know me. I make her comfortable. I make her smile. I make everybody smile. And I think one of the big things that Marie mentioned was joy. And look, I went to Mum's aged care facility, and I just made everybody sing. And I was telling the other families, hello, how about if you do a playlist of what songs they like, and even the grumpiest people suddenly just turn joyful. So this is one of the, I had to pick up my notes because I have a huge amount of everything else here. Like, really like a purposeful engagement, what Marie was saying. And I think that is the big thing, is the purpose, and really sharing it with everyone. And like at Mum's Place, music is a great way of sharing. And we had a few sessions last year at Positive Aging about music and the power of music, and it is super powerful. And I created for Mum X amount of playlists that I could say to her, you choose. What else did I put? About the conference. Yes, so last year we talked about the tribe. We talked about how we created the tribe when we talked about the conference afterwards. So we did create the tribe, and I think why the conference last year was so positive is because we had great people. It was the inaugural one, and we had the people who truly have a passion, and they guide their professional life with their passion and joy and positivity. So that's why I think it was such a great success. So we created this tribe. Oh my God, I've kicked out Anthony. He's gone. There's only take it over. So last year it was really about the tribe and how we can broaden the tribe. My final comment before Anthony comes back, I actually looked at while I was listening to you guys, I went to look at the stats from Australian Institute of Health and Wellness, and also about Statistics Australia, and they were upgraded 11 days ago, 5th of December. And dementia is now the #1 disease of killing Australians. If you look at the previous stats from 2 years ago, the images still showed cardiovascular for men as a leading cause, but for women it was dementia, and this is the leading cause. And Moxa, I had one final one. You guys said that and about aging, and I think one thing we need to remember: we all age. Every day we age. We chronically age every day. There is no waiting for the future and saying that, hey, one day we'll be old enough, and one day we'll age, and one day the threshold. We don't want to have the threshold. We're getting older every day. And Marie, I'll come with you and have a pain au chocolat with pleasure, avec le plaisir. We can do this in French way because that is an awesome way to start a day, especially if you had a French, because also it has butter, it has eggs, it has protein, you're building your muscles. So I think if we restrict our lives, that's a bad thing to do. So I'll come and have a chocolat.
You're like turning my lights on. You kicked off Anthony.
Yeah. Lights go out. It's like a mic drop moment, wasn't it, with Tura? It was like a mic drop moment.
I'm not sure. None of us are dietitians. I'm not sure where we should be condoning or condemning pain au chocolats for breakfast every morning.
But it's not every morning. It's an occasional thing. Imagine me going for breakfast with you just having porridge. Not that porridge is great. There's porridge bars of where I come from. But sorry, Anthony, I didn't mean to kick you out and take over talking too much. But yeah. So look, obviously, I have. It is my passion. It is a passion in a professional level, and it's. I love how the space has changed. Look, when I first did my physio degree, I was running an exercise class for older adults, and they were war veterans. I mean, coming from Finland, war veterans are a big thing for us because they kept our independence. And I went to run a class, and I was a young, novice physio who had boring class, and these men came to me and said, "Yeah, sorry, love, can we do this? Is a bit boring. Can we run and lift weights and do stuff?" So this was more than 30 years ago. So I learned the lesson very quickly. But I like the fact that the industry is changing. And look, I'm super excited about Marie Alford. She is my personal, she's my research hero. I'm not ashamed to admit this, always has been, because her research has really, truly changed the world, and it keeps on changing it. So Marie Alford in the 90s in Boston did a study of people aged between 90 and 100 and gave strength training. And everybody said to her, "Oh my God, you're going to kill them all." But she stuck to her guts. And the improvements she had are amazing. And this earlier this year, 1st of January 2025, she was part of the team that published the ultimate cookbook review of 680 papers that gives you advice on how we should exercise. She is the mastermind and a true hero, and I'm so excited that she's going to be talking. Not that there was anything wrong with Justin last time, but yeah, she is an amazing person. So well done.
Shout out to Justin there. Bit of a shout out to Justin.
Shout out to Justin. I love Justin to bits. I love Justin to bits, but he has no way, even not even close to Maria. She is amazing. Oh, okay, Anthony, sorry, I'm going to let you talk. This was my monologue that lasted.
No, that's what we wanted to hear. But while we've got everyone here, why don't you guys wanted to share some news, Tim and Mark, about a wine tour?
The wine tour. Let's get on the wine tour. So Mark and I have done really well. So seriously, for listeners who are interested in the program, go and have a look. We think the program's great. We've got a couple of spaces which we're strategically leaving open at this point in time, but I think we've filled our 2 days quite nicely with stuff that people will find very exciting. We haven't mentioned the masterclasses, so we're not doing concurrent sessions. We haven't got there yet, but we are putting in masterclasses this year, including the Hammond Innovation Breakfast Masterclass on the second day. And then we've got masterclasses on each of the days during the day. So if people are not interested in the topic in the main hall, they can break away. But one of the things which we got great reviews last year was the tour that we did afterwards, which just did a run straight up the hills, went to Wootton Wines, Clayton Church Homes, the Uradla Hotel, and then came back down to Carmelite Southern Cross Care. And it was so well received, we started toying with some ideas. So we pitched at Marie and some of the other dementia doulas that we know in Adelaide about potentially doing a dementia reablement education wine tour. And Marie, Wendy Hall, and my wife, Tamara Hemwood, have embraced the idea and said, what a good idea. So we haven't got any set in stone sort of locations yet, but we're hoping we can get a group of people to travel together for the day, taste some great South Australian wine, but also learn a little bit and maybe a lot more about dementia and reablement. And we're hoping it'll open up some conversation with people during their bus rides, during their wine tasting, and maybe even the more wine they drink, the looser their lips get and the more they delve into some of the more meaningful experiences they've had with people with dementia. How's that, Marie?
You had me at wine, Tim. But I think it's interesting because in aged care, sometimes wine is one of those extra services that you got to pay for. And as someone who likes a glass of wine, and I flash back to my grandmother and my other grandparents who had, my grandfather who had his little middy of beer every evening with his meal. These are not extras in care. These are part of the day-to-day life of people. And just because you're aging or just because you're living with dementia, we take these things away again. And I think, what a lovely way embrace learning in an informal setting, but also build great peer networks and connections and share stories. And, you know, I wonder when the last time we took some residents from a day respite or a aged care home on a wine tour. That'd be a fun time. I might suggest that. Oh, I like that idea.
Oh, yeah, and this is what you're saying is like that classic ageism. Oh, we better not give them a drink because they're an older adult. They might fall. If they have too much to drink, they might fall. You know,
or maybe maybe they might get a bit sexy and racy with each other because God forbid people do that in aged care. So, you know, I think, you know, aging is about all the things, as Tira said, we are all aging now. So all the things we're doing now as we're aging, just because we're 70, 80, 90, living with dementia, doesn't actually mean that they should stop. And that includes the pain au chocolat, you know, and, you know, I'm not a dietitian either, but I've worked with a lot of great ones over the years. But I think, you know, we take such a limited view of what people can eat and drink as they age, whereas actually, you know, what is your best life and what gives you joy? Like that is at the soul of everything we do. What sparks joy for a human being? I walk into one of our aged care homes in Adelaide, and I love going in there because there's some residents in there. The moment I walk in there, I just feel like I'm with my tribe. So I can sit down at the dining table with them and we just have a chat. And they might tell me the same thing, 10 times in 5 minutes. For them, it's always the first time. And I love that because every time they tell me the same thing, for me, my response is always, really? Wow. Because for them, it's the first time they've told me and they're so excited. But I take so much away from those little tidbits with them because they show me what it's really like to positively age because they're finding joy within an aged care home and just doing day-to-day things. So whether it's cooking in the kitchen or being outside, having a sing-along or just chatting with friends, they're actually living. And as Margaret, who lives there, would say to me, she's living her best life right now.
And the one thing I'm going to ask about the food aspect as well, it brings up more memory. It's an exercise treat. If you have someone who's always eaten with a fork and a knife, again, this is a case of my mum. Like some of the care nurses would give a wrong plate and a spoon, and she would lean over and eat with the spoon. I would go over, put a normal plate and a fork and a knife. The posture comes up, she's eating properly. Because her motor memory kicks in and says, hey, fork and knife, I know what I'm doing. So I think having the experiences about food, and I love the fact that the food buys, they're kind of be at positive aging this year because it's, you know, food matters so much. And the moment of eating, and if you can have a nice environment for eating, it gives you joy, but also it makes you eat better. Makes you chew because you're doing something, it's your normal function. You're not just shoving down in a bad posture with the spoon because that's not the way you were always eating. Because, you know, we're going back and we have to, let's bring back the past and all the successful, look, I've been lucky to see many successful places and there is the music and there is the chef hat, that there is the bar and there is the wine cellar and the food experience is great every day. And it's not just the go in the corner and shove this food, but really like I think moments need to, you know, we need to make the moments matter. And, you know, every moment is important. And everything can be joyful.
Moments that matter. How beautiful is that? That is just gorgeous. I think the other thing, and Tim, you know, we don't see a lot of gyms in aged care settings, do we?
No, not enough. Yeah, there's more and more emerging, but you know, I think I still have trouble. Like you go to a gym in a residential aged care facility, and it looks like a clinic. Like it's you know,
cold. It's not friendly.
Is a form of ageism to me. Like if you want them to exercise, treat them like adults, put them into a real gym where they're going to get meaningful outcomes. Get them to, you know, don't ask them to sit around and bang a balloon around to each other, or don't give them a 0.5 kilo pink dumbbell and ask them to lift something which actually weighs less than their cup of tea. You know, actually giving them exercise.
Raise my hand because I've seen great gyms in aged care facilities, and it's not. And I've been lucky to design these gyms to these facilities, but that's not the point. The point is the story after. I spoke to one of my providers, and we set up a gym 2 years ago, and at the moment, everyone ambulates. Every single resident in this facility ambulates. I've been to one side where the guy who used to run the gym, oh my gosh, it was amazing. He's a physio, he's a jazz drummer, and he had the music set up for everyone. They had posters and movies and again, palliative care dementia. Palliative care, these are palliative care dementia facilities because, look, we all die. Palliative care, and I think a lot of the time, like, we should not be afraid of saying we die, because one day we all will die as well. We age every day and we all die one day. But you can choose to die better. Like, even if you're in palliative care, you can still exercise. Life, the meaningful life still matters. I've seen someone also who, I saw this person quite in a bad shape and really struggling with the dementia on that particular day. And then we started to talk about things that he had his passion for. And then the biggest anxiety sort of went away. And then seeing him go to the gym and doing exercise properly, and then knowing that, okay, he was smiling, he knows he's using his muscles. We know that he's now feeling better, but also he's going to sleep better. He's going to have a good night's sleep. And we have these cases where people go to a gym in the morning and then they, then they die in an armchair with a cup of tea next to them. I want to be that person, or maybe even a glass of wine next to me. Fine, give it a champagne and caviar. But I want to be that nana who goes to the gym in the morning and then has a champagne and caviar and go, oh, ta-ta, I'm just going to slip away. We don't need to have that end period. If it comes, it can happen, but it doesn't have to. And life can still be joyful and glorious until the end. And look, I know I'm in a very lucky position to witness the best, witness really, really successful programs. But it's not just about it, but it's really when using it properly. And if we really focus on reablement, we can really provide a good life to everyone in the end, because we can try to make their physiology better. And one thing we can also, people can still even improve. I go to travel to go see my mum, and in 10 days I can do crazy action because, if I'm just there and I believe in walking into the ward and making everybody sing and let's eat some strawberries and go outside and have meaningful moments. So, yes.
I remember at the conference last year we were talking about there was someone who was doing competitions in aged care on walkers and exercise bikes. I love that because, again, who here on screen is competitive? Put your hand up. Is it just me?
Yeah.
So, and just because I have dementia, I live in aged care, doesn't mean that element of competition gets taken away. Like, I think what a great thing to do, and also to get people engaged with that activity, set them up challenges, give them things. The balloon toss, not sure how competitive and challenging that is, but going on a treadmill and maybe even with a screen in front of you which takes you through the Alps or through wherever you used to walk, it could be somewhere in Australia, or on the exercise bike. Wow, what an opportunity to pit people against each other for a bit of fun, but also for exercise. So there are easy ways for us to do this engagement and raising activity levels without being boring with it. The balloon toss. I see one more balloon. I'm going to pop it.
I think we mentioned it before. The one size fits all. It's just it's not appropriate for these people, and there does need to be more evidence-based practice. That's the community space as well as the residential aged care space. And people, like you just said, people love the challenge. Like the last episode of this, we talked to Simon Kerrigan and Guide Healthcare have done these incredible national challenges where they've gotten people to walk up Mount Everest or do Olympic stuff, during the Olympic Games. And so everybody gets involved, and some of the photos and the smiles and the engagement, the activity, it's just phenomenal. But yes, I think, that's innovative practice. That's the next step to where a lot of allied health is in the aged care space, particularly the residential aged care space, getting to that next step, challenging people. And like Turi says, there is more and more good gyms out there, but those gyms need to be used to their fullest extent to actually get the sort of things where you do have everybody mobilizing to the dining experience and having that higher quality of life. So, and I think we're at the cusp of it. Like, we've done care in Australia for so many years. Now we need to start to think about, can we do care and reablement? And yeah, I think we'll get there. There's definitely what we're seeing at the Positive Aging Summit. That's the groundswell. That's the growth of the tribe. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. How do we widen the tribe? How do we, that's the thing. Because I think that really, so many people called about after the positive aging, they called it the tribe. We have found our tribe. The tribe is here. How do we spread the tribe? How do we get more people into the tribe? And then how do we talk? I think the only way is talking about it and sharing about it and doing research. And I think it was great, Marie, what you're saying about working together with ARIA. And if we get ARIA, and then with ARIA, we can use universities. And it's really about collaboration. And really, like last year, it wasn't a tribe, it was just gathering with friends. That's what I felt like, there was great people there. And if we share that story and try to get more people, but I think definitely collaborating. So if you have clinicians and researchers and practice managers, and if everybody can collaborate and really make a determined decision to work together to create something much, much better, it can be done.
And good news stories. Let's get good news stories out there in the public sector. Let's not have bad news stories be the front page paper. I remember when I was young, this is how old I am, because not probably any other people on the call remember it. Cliff Young, the potato farmer who walked and competed in the these stories. And there's amazing, Masters Games champions now. And, Bill Yates, who's living with dementia, who's, doing triathlons. Like, let's get the good news stories out there. Let's get the walking Mount Everest stories out there to show people that aged care isn't scary. You can still do things. But let's also talk about what people are doing while they're at home as well. So let's change the narrative out there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're coming up. Oh, okay. Final thoughts from Tim, and then we'll wrap up.
Final thoughts. Well, I don't know. You mightn't want to hear it. I saw an Instagram post the other day of 80-year-old 100-meter sprinters, and the guy who won still, like, he was going red hot speed, and he did it in something like 14 seconds, like 4 seconds off, like the 20-year-old guy.
Is amazing.
Yeah, I couldn't do that.
I can't do that.
Yeah. There's a lot of these active people. Like, my grandma was riding a bike at 87 and then invited to do modeling, and she was but then she had to pay taxis. Welcome to Finland. She had to pay taxis and say, keep your modeling. I don't want to pay taxis. I've paid enough taxis all my life. I'm almost 90. I don't want to pay taxis at 90. So that's where it stopped. Sorry, took over from Tim again. Wow, how did this happen? I will never be invited back, Anthony. Apologies.
No. Well, look, I would not boot you. I'd welcome you back on every stream. We're going to call it there. Mark, before we call it, do you want to share who's going to be our next guest? And then we'll thank Marie and Tura for joining us on this one.
Yeah, Tim's already mentioned it, but then
okay. I guess I was away from that.
Who's the Chief Allied Health Officer will be joining in January. And before we go, there's another event that's happening 2 weeks after Positive Aging Summit, another great event that Marie is very familiar with. If you want to do a little plug on that, Marie.
This would be the International Dementia Conference. Is it 2 weeks after? Is it? I don't know whether it is. June 4th and 5th? Is that? I can't. About 2 weeks feels like it.
Yeah,
feels like it'll be a lifetime in between.
I'm going to be Guernsey. I got to speak
conferences. Yeah, Tim's speaking at the conference. So look, great dementia-focused event. We do have some sessions around reablement, because that's obviously a very passionate area for us as well. But really great opportunity for people to come along and learn more about dementia. We have Dr. Alan Power and Catherine Mannix has come about as some of our leading speakers at our event. But it's like the conference season, guys. Like, I'm gonna have so much fun. Like, your conference and then our conference, and I'm sure there'll be another conference.
2026 is going to be your year, Marie. Well, look, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate having you all on. And if I don't catch anyone between now and New Year and Christmas, Merry Christmas. Merry
Time
Christmas.
for
Thank you,
Awesome.
guys. Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas.
Take care.
Merry Christmas.
Oh, I love it.